Okay, so the Mustang needed a little work. Got a valve cover leak on this side, passenger side, right onto the header, so it's smoking a lot. Might as well change the one on the right too. Set of tools, 8mm U-joint, ratchet. Although this one, if you're gonna do it, it'd be nice if it had another joint here. I would recommend that. Then of course you need some 10mm for power steering bracket. Although this is the first time I've done this job, so I'm not sure if you actually need to do that or not, but it looks like you're gonna need the space to remove this side. Also, of course, remove the intake air system. Cover it up so you don't get any dirt. First I thought the bolts pulled right out, but they don't seem to come out, so there might be some retaining mechanism on the other side, but as soon as I loosened all of them, valve cover is now kind of loose, so I assume they probably just don't come off. We'll see once I try to get it out right now. So the brackets, you're gonna need 10mm and 13mm deep socket, and just the regular one too if you want to, just for space. Alright, let's see how it goes. Alright, so there's the valve cover, and I was right. There is some sort of a retainer that keeps the nuts from falling off. Dipstick was a bit of a challenge, but it was a little bit more difficult lifting it and getting it over the cam gear, so you're gonna have to lift a little bit higher here first. But other videos show that you need to remove the coils. I did not do that on this one. I just unplugged them and moved the wire loom out of the way, lifted up really high here, it all popped off, and then just kind of snaked it out this way. I'll probably next time I'll remove this plug here, but I did have to remove this alarm, just kind of get it out of the way for a little bit more room. But this is how it looks. This one I did not have any rips on the gasket. I didn't have a problem with this side, it was more the passenger side, so I guess this is part one. And it was a good thing I removed this bracket, because I did have to get this out of the way, so make sure you do that. Give yourself a little bit more room. It's not a big deal to remove it. So now I guess time to clean up a little bit and replace the gasket, and then put it back on. This is plastic, or some sort of a thermoplastic, you know, durable, but you know, just be careful. I didn't really have to tap it at all to break it loose, so although I did have it ready, you know, make sure you get the one that's the rubber side or the hard plastic, but if you are going to do it, try first with the rubber side, just to prevent any damage. You don't want to crack the valve cover gasket, I mean the valve cover, not the gasket, sorry. But yeah, on to the next one. Okay, so real quick before it gets dark, I had to clean up some of the remaining head gasket material, the cylinder head. I did use a combination of a plastic scraper to get rid of some of the big pieces first. Tried a razor blade, made me kind of a little uneasy. So I stopped using the razor blade. What I did use was a rag with acetone, but it felt like it was not getting rid of the gasket residue right away. So what I did try, which I had some laying around, was the goof off paint splatter removal. You know, put it on the rag, kind of wiped it down, and besides it smelling really strong, it also did a really good job. I recommend it. Just make sure that you're in a well ventilated area, and other than that, you know, maybe you want to put on a carbon mask, maybe have some air circulating, but it seemed to do a really good job. You know, it's just the only reason why I felt like it was a little bit of an effort, just because it's kind of awkward to get in there and clean, but I still felt like it was less risk compared to a razor blade. So yeah, it did a good job. So time to see if I can put everything back together before it gets dark. Alright, so this is the new valve cover gasket. You know, there is an orientation. So now, if you look at this, I guess the design is that washer goes on top of that pocket there, that step. So you kind of have to work it in there. To make it easier, you can use these picks. I got it from Harbor Freight. You basically use it to, you know, sorry, it's with my left hand, but you know, push this under there, then you can kind of walk it around. You can be able to get it under the under that washer, and you can do the rest for all of them. Yeah, you know, helps to keep it in place, and I'm assuming helps the seal as well. One thing I didn't know that I just found out, I guess, there's some sort of a grommet that's underneath that also helps in sealing. I may try to do that for the other valve cover when I replace it, but so far the one on the right, it's already a little too late. Good thing this one wasn't leaking as much. Actually, it wasn't leaking at all, so I'll just leave it as is and leave it up for fortune and see what happens. But so far, almost there. Okay, I was able to get the valve cover back on. A little bit more difficult to put it back on than it was to remove it. Basically just trying to clear this right here. The other thing is I didn't do last time, which I should have done, which I just did right now, was to remove the 8mm bolt that's holding the dipstick. Gives you a little bit more clearance. So you want to do that before you remove the valve cover. It's somewhere down in here. But other than that, I did have to, I kind of lost mine. I already had one, but I did bought a little mirror just to double check that, make sure the seal didn't come loose or get twisted or anything like that on the back and on the sides, on the bottom. So, you know, if you have one, use it. I recommend it. Other than that, I'm gonna hand tighten all of these and then just move on to the other side. All right, so here's the passenger side valve cover removed. Same thing as the other one. I cleaned it the same way. Although one thing to notice that I didn't do in the other one is that, you know, this cover here that mates up to the cylinder head, huge step. This is higher than this one. You know, probably about a couple, what, maybe like 20 thousandths or so. So they're not matched. They did have some sort of sealant on there. I didn't put it in on the other one, so maybe you want to consider adding some. I know the gasket itself has a pretty large pad on here, and I'm assuming it's to account for the mismatch. But like I said, adding some sort of extra liquid sealant might be an option. The other thing that was a little bit challenging, I did have to loosen up the fuel rail just to get a little bit more room. You know, I'm trying to clear this guy right here. So once I did that, I was able to remove it a lot easier. Of course, you know, this is kind of a rabbit hole, so once I did that, I did notice how dirty the seals were on the fuel injectors, and I'm assuming that whoever has owned this car in the past has probably never done any replacement or any maintenance on the fuel injectors. One of the seals actually just completely came off, so it probably shrunk, you know, from all the heat cycling. So that seal's bad, so that's one thing to address once I put the valve cover back on. Now onto the valve cover. The difference between this one and the other one was, kind of found out how these guys kind of stay together is that they have these grommets. Sorry, it's a little loud, but the grommets go in there. Slight, kind of press fit. On the other valve cover, it didn't seem to be a problem. They just kind of stayed put. On this one, they just kind of came right off. Kind of my assumption here is that it seems like this cylinder bank either tends to run hotter than the other one. So maybe that's why it was leaking and the other one wasn't. So maybe there's a lot more heat trapped on this side of the engine bay. Like I said, assumptions. I'm not a mechanic, so I don't do these regularly, so I don't know if that's really a thing. But if other people are having the same issue, maybe that's something that's going on. But regardless, on this side at least, I'm going to replace these just to be on the safe side. Hopefully they don't leak. I'm kind of assuming that someone in the past may have done that. Right around the edges of this counterbore here, there seem to be this hole, there's scratches, cuts, so I'm assuming someone may have tried to pick these seals out before, maybe try to replace them. So I'm hoping maybe putting in new ones, putting in the gasket, making sure everything's all nice and tight. I will eliminate the leak and hopefully last quite a bit. It's getting kind of super windy here, so I don't think I'll be able to finish today, so I'm just going to try to cover it up and hopefully not get any dirt inside. But definitely have to address the fuel injectors, but I'll just try to get the valve cover on quickly. And hopefully eliminate the leaks and then move on to the next issue. So these are the valve cover bolts and studs. I had a hard time trying to source these. Like I mentioned, maybe I thought they were different, but I confirmed the part number with the dealer, and I guess this is the design that's supposed to be a little expensive. But in checking the gasket or the rubber part of it, it's still pretty flexible. None of them are ripped, which are just of course deformed from being torqued down. So but the fact that they're still rubbery, I would assume they haven't hardened yet, so I decided to just clean them and reuse them. Also due to unforeseen circumstances, I have to put it back as quickly as possible so I can start driving it again. So I decided to put these back on, and of course if I need to go back and replace them, we'll cross that bridge later. But so far they look okay. I had to wire brush them, get rid of some of the crud built up on them. Then I washed them with soap and water, and then rinsed and air dried, and they look pretty good. Probably give them a little coating of oil just to keep them from rusting once they're installed, but so far they look good. Okay, now I'm going to install this the stud on this side of the valve cover. Bottom of the gasket is flat, goes on that counterbore, goes in, so install it this way, push in from the back until the stud pokes out. So then you get your pick. Actually, you get your pick, and I'm still pushing from the back side. Once I get one little side in of the gasket under the washer, then I use the pick to walk the rest of it all the way around. You do need to keep pushing from the back to keep that stud push through all the way as much as you can. That'll make it a little bit easier. Then you just kind of walk around it. I usually will poke the top of the washer and then slide outwards to push the gasket away, and then kind of push it under it. That seems to work pretty quickly, and then that's how it's supposed to look. Alright, valve cover on, tightening the bolts. Just a tip, if you're having trouble with that last bottom bolt, it's basically a straight shot from here. Extension. Okay, another tip for the driver's side, for those two bolts down there. You can reach them if you go through here with, of course, a single U-joint, but you should be able to get both of them down here so you're not struggling a little bit. Okay, so that's the valve covers installed. I just got to put everything back, little accessories, add some oil, turn it on, and then move on to the fuel injectors. All right, hopefully this video helped someone. Okay, so here's the install update. I turned on the car, had an oil leak on the driver's side. I guess what happened was when they installed it, sliding the cover back into place, looks like this must have moved or come out of its groove, and when I tightened everything down, it ripped the gasket. So this set me back a week. AutoZone prices were just too much for the whole set, so I went back to eBay, and of course had to wait for delivery. So I finally got it back, so now I gotta replace it and reinstall it. Just gotta be a little bit more careful, and I gotta triple check before I tighten everything down that the gasket is in its groove. It's gonna be a little tight squeeze to check. I don't know, maybe try some silicone gasket maker or something here. Kind of don't want to, but that's another option, just to make sure nothing slides out. But just when you reinstall, just make sure you don't hit the camshaft retainers or anything like that on the valve train. I remember slightly brushing against it when I was trying to fit it into place, so I think that's what probably knocked this one out of its, this side out of its groove. So I just got to be more careful and take my time. All right, that's it. So there's the gasket reinstalled. This is the corner that was ripped. You know, just double check that the gasket is sitting in the grooves. Certain spots it seems like it wants to pop out, but you know, just kind of just massage it back in. There's the pick I used. Very useful. So time to go back in the car, make sure I double check everything, and before I tighten it, just so I don't rip it and have to go through all this again. But I will see. A little bit of info there on the valve cover. Other than that, everything looks good. We'll see. Alright, so here's the valve cover right before I tighten it. I didn't even have to remove the connections to the fuel injectors and the coils. I did remove the clips from the studs, but I basically slid it in at an angle here, lifted the wiring, and then just kind of went in and slid it in. So this is a good time to check the gasket, make sure everything's in place. See, it came out a little bit. But overall, I think that cap was the culprit last time. I remember hitting it, and that's probably what knocked the gasket out of its place. So far it looks good on this side. I'm gonna get my mirror and I'm gonna check the bottom side. I'm gonna check the sides. I'm gonna triple check. But so far, I think this was a lot easier the second time around getting it in there, but time to wrap it up.